Pull the blue shirt out of the drawer. It was washed. It smells like nothing at all standing here in the bedroom. Put it on, drive 20 minutes, walk from the parking lot into the building, and by the time you sit down, there is a sour, faintly sharp smell coming off your own shoulders that was not there when you left the house. It is worse under the arms and along the back. Lift the collar of the towel in the bathroom, and there it is again, a flat, mildewed note underneath the detergent scent. The pillowcase has it. The gym shirt has it so badly you have started keeping it in the garage. So you do the three things everyone does. You wash it again on a longer cycle. You add more detergent, and then you add fabric softener on top of that, because softener is what the bottle says makes laundry smell fresh. And eventually, you throw the shirt out and buy another one. All three of those are wrong. And a $6 kitchen thermometer, the kind sold for checking a roast, is going to be the thing that fixes it. That will make no sense yet. It is not that you did not wash it well enough. Look at the evidence you already have. The shirt comes out of the machine, smelling clean. It only turns when it gets warm and damp again. Nothing you have done has removed anything. You have been rinsing the surface of a problem that lives inside the fiber, and the proof is that the smell waits for body heat to bring it back. The smell is not dirt. It is your own skin oil, absorbed into the thread, sitting there through every wash you have run. And the reason it is still there has nothing to do with your detergent and everything to do with a number you have never measured. There is a way to strip that out completely. It costs under $1 per load, it takes an hour of soaking that you spend doing something else, and it works on shirts you gave up on 2 years ago. It uses no fabric softener, and one of the two things it requires stops working almost entirely below a certain point, which is why it has probably failed for you before without you knowing why. Here is what is actually in that shirt. Your skin produces sebum continuously. It is an oil, and it transfers into clothing all day, most heavily where fabric presses against skin and where you sweat. Sweat itself is nearly odorless when it leaves the body. The smell comes later, when bacteria that live on skin and in fabric feed on the oils and the compounds in sweat and break them down into short-chain fatty acids and sulfur compounds. Those are the sour and the stale notes you are smelling. So there are two things in the shirt. There is oil, and there is a bacterial population living on the oil. Wash out the oil, and the bacteria have nothing to eat. Leave the oil, and no amount of scent will do anything but sit on top of it. Now the part that explains your entire laundry history. Think about a frying pan with bacon fat congealed in the bottom. Hold it under a cold tap, and the water runs over the grease and off the side, and the grease stays exactly where it is. Nothing is wrong with the water. Run the hot tap, and the fat goes fluid and lifts away in seconds. Body oil behaves the same way. It is not fully liquid at room temperature. It is soft and waxy, and it is held inside a fiber rather than sitting on a flat surface. Detergent works by surrounding oil and carrying it into water, and it does that job well when the oil is fluid and poorly when the oil is not. A typical American wash cycle runs cold or warm and lasts under half an hour. That is a cold tap on a greasy pan with agitation. It is worse with synthetics. Polyester and nylon have a chemical affinity for oil. They do not simply hold it in gaps between threads. They attract it into the fiber itself, which is precisely why the gym shirt is the worst thing in the house and the old cotton undershirt is fine. And here is the sentence that reframes the whole cabinet above your machine. Fabric softener is a cationic conditioner, which means it is engineered to bond permanently to fabric and stay there through rinsing. What it leaves is a thin, waxy film. That film repels water, which is why softened towels stop absorbing. A fiber coated in a water-repellent film cannot be reached by detergent and water on the next wash, so the oil already inside is sealed in, and every future load adds more underneath. Fabric softener does not fail to fix the smell. It is a large part of why the smell became permanent. The shirt was not ruined by sweat. It was ruined by the product you added to make it smell nice. If that just explained the last 3 years of your laundry, subscribe now, because what comes next removes it in a single hour and costs about 50 cents. The first method is a hot soak with oxygen bleach, and it is done outside the machine. Buy sodium percarbonate. It is sold as oxygen bleach or as a color-safe bleach powder, and it is the main ingredient in most of the branded oxygen laundry boosters at 3 times the price. A tub costs around $15, and it will last you a year. Here is what it does. Dissolved in water, Sodium percarbonate breaks apart into washing soda and hydrogen peroxide. The peroxide oxidizes, which means it attacks the odor, causing compounds directly, and breaks them into smaller molecules with no smell. And it does the same to the oxidized oil residue holding them. The washing soda side raises the alkalinity, which helps lift oils off the fiber. It is color-safe on almost everything, unlike chlorine bleach, and it leaves no residue because what it turns into is water, oxygen, and soda ash. Now the thermometer. Sodium percarbonate is extremely temperature dependent. Below about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, it releases peroxide slowly and does very little in the time you give it. Its useful range starts around 130, and it works properly at about 140. This is the single reason this method fails for most people who try it. They use the hot setting on the tap and assume hot is hot. Go and check yours. Run the hot tap in the laundry room or the bathtub for a full minute and put the thermometer in the stream. Most American water heaters are set at 120 degrees from the factory, and by the time the water has traveled through the pipes to the far end of the house, it is commonly arriving somewhere between 105 and 115. That is under the threshold. Everything you needed to happen was not happening, and there was no way to see it. Do not raise the setting on your water heater. Water above 120 degrees at the tap scalds skin quickly, and that is a real risk in a house with children or with anyone unsteady on their feet. Heat the water separately instead. Fill a bathtub, a utility sink, or a 5-gallon bucket with hot tap water. Then boil a kettle and add it until the thermometer reads between 130 and 140. For a bathtub with a few inches of water, that is usually 2 full kettles. Check with the thermometer rather than guessing. Add the percarbonate while the water is running so it dissolves completely. 1 to 2 tablespoons per gallon of water. Stir it with a wooden spoon or the handle of a brush until you cannot see any powder on the bottom. Now put the clothes in, one item at a time, pushing each one under the surface so no air is trapped. Air pockets are why the shoulder of a shirt comes out untreated. Everything must be submerged and stay submerged. Leave it 1 hour. Come back at the 20-minute mark and push everything under again and move it around for 30 seconds because fabric floats as it warms. At the end of the hour, look at the water. On a load of shirts that have been washed 100 times, it will be yellow to brown and slightly cloudy. That is what has been living in your clothes. On badly affected athletic wear, it can be startling. Then wring them out, put them straight into the machine, and run a normal wash with your usual detergent and no softener. The soak loosened everything. The wash carries it away. But you will notice something after that first soak, and it will confuse you. The shirts will smell clean, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, the sourness starts creeping back faster than it should for clothes you just stripped. That is not the oil returning. That is something else that was left behind. The second method deals with it, and it takes 2 minutes. Everything about the first method is alkaline. The detergent is alkaline. The washing soda is alkaline, and if you have hard water, which most of the country does to some degree, the calcium and magnesium in it react with detergent and deposit as insoluble mineral scale in the fabric. That deposit is rough, it is porous, and it holds oil and bacteria beautifully. Meanwhile, any old softener film is still bonded to fibers deeper in the weave. An acid rinse strips both. Acid dissolves mineral scale and neutralizes alkaline residue, and it breaks down the bond that softener has with the fiber. Use plain distilled white vinegar, 1 cup, added to the rinse compartment of the machine, not to the wash. If your machine has no rinse dispenser, put it in the fabric softener compartment, which releases at the same point in the cycle. Citric acid works too, at about 1 tablespoon dissolved in a cup of water, and it has no smell. Do this on every 3rd or 4th load, not every load, because constant acid exposure is unnecessary and rubber seals do not benefit from it. 2 things to be clear about. The vinegar smell disappears completely as the clothes dry because acetic acid is volatile, and vinegar must never go into a machine at the same time as chlorine bleach. That combination produces chlorine gas. That handles what is in the fabric. It does not touch what happens in the 4 hours after the machine stops, which is where most of the smell in an American house is actually created. The third method is the one that is genuinely Japanese, and it starts with a word. Namagawaki refers to laundry that has dried too slowly, and the smell that comes with it. It is a common household concern in Japan. It appears on detergent packaging there, and there has been serious commercial and scientific attention paid to the bacteria responsible. It is a distinct, recognized problem with its own name. In the United States, it has no name, which is a large part of why nobody diagnoses it. The smell gets blamed on the washing machine, or on the detergent, or on the clothes being old. Here is the mechanism, and it is simple. Fabric coming out of a wash is not sterile. A small population of bacteria always survives. If the fabric dries quickly, that population has no time to do anything. If the fabric stays damp for hours, those bacteria multiply rapidly in exactly the conditions they prefer, which are warmth, moisture, and organic residue. The result is a musty odor that appears in clothing that was genuinely clean when it came out of the drum. This is why a shirt hung in a crowded closet in a humid basement smells worse than the identical shirt hung outside, even though both were washed the same way. Drying time is not a detail. It is a variable with a direct effect on how many bacteria are on the finished garment. Japanese households dry laundry outdoors and in sun as a normal daily practice, and tenpaboshi, sun drying, is used across the culture for far more than clothing. Sunlight helps in two separate ways. Ultraviolet light damages bacteria on exposed surfaces. And more importantly, sun and moving air together shorten the drying time dramatically, which is the part that matters most. The practical rule is this: aim to have laundry fully dry within about 5 hours of leaving the machine. Under that, you will rarely have a problem. Well over it, you reliably will. Which means how you hang things is not a matter of neatness. It is the mechanism. All of this belongs to one larger system. If you want the complete Japanese method for a home where things stay in good condition instead of being replaced, the book is linked in the description, and it is there if you want it. The fourth method is airflow, and it costs nothing. Air, not heat, is what removes water from fabric. Air that is already saturated cannot take any more, so still air trapped between two shirts hanging an inch apart stops working within minutes. Moving air is the whole game. Hang garments with a hand's width between them at minimum, not touching and not overlapping. When hanging on a rack or a line, put the longest items at the two ends and the shortest in the middle, so the profile of the laundry forms an arch with an open space beneath it. This is standard practice in Japan, and there is a reason for it. That open center lets air move up through the middle of the load instead of stalling against a solid wall of fabric. It is a noticeable difference in drying time, and it costs nothing but the order in which you hang things. Hang shirts inside out and hang them by the shoulders on a hanger rather than folded over a bar, because a fold creates a double thickness that stays damp long after everything else is dry. Turn pockets inside out. Hang jeans by the waistband with the legs open. Hang towels flat and spread wide rather than folded in half. If you dry indoors, put a fan on the load. Not a heater, a fan. A $20 box fan aimed across a drying rack cuts drying time more than doubling the room temperature does, and it is the single most effective thing available to anyone drying laundry in a basement or an apartment in winter. Run a dehumidifier in the same room if you have one, since air that is already full of water dries nothing. And do not put a load into a dryer that is packed to the top. A tumble dryer works by moving hot air through tumbling fabric, and an overloaded drum has no room to tumble, so the load spends an hour at temperature while the middle of it stays damp. That is a Namagawaki machine. The fifth method is not a technique. It is a rule, and it has 3 parts. Stop using fabric softener and dryer sheets. Not less. None. Both work by depositing a coating, and every load you run with them undoes what the soaking did. If your clothes feel stiff afterward, that stiffness is what fabric actually feels like without a film on it, and the acid rinse handles most of it. Wool dryer balls will do the rest. Use less detergent, not more. Almost everyone doses by the cap, and almost every cap is oversized. Excess detergent does not rinse out at the end of a cycle, particularly in a high-efficiency machine that uses very little water, so it stays in the fabric where it attracts and holds soil. If your clothes ever feel slightly slick when wet, or your machine produces a lot of foam, you are overdosing. Cut it by 1/3 and see what changes, and never leave a finished load sitting in the drum. Wet fabric in a warm, sealed metal cylinder is close to an ideal incubator, and 2 hours in there will undo a wash completely. If it happens, rerun the load. There is no rescuing it with drying. The last part of the rule concerns the machine itself. Leave the door and the detergent drawer open between loads so the inside dries. Wipe the rubber gasket of a front loader dry after the last load of the day and pull back the folds, because the black spotting that appears there is biofilm, and it is directly upwind of everything you wash. Once a month, run an empty cycle on the hottest setting the machine offers with percarbonate in the drum and nothing else in it. Before the part of this video that will save you the most money, if you have not subscribed yet, this is the moment. Now, the things that do not work, and the specific reason each one fails. Fabric softener. Covered already in terms of what it does, but the practical consequence is worth stating plainly. It reduces the absorbency of towels, it degrades the moisture-wicking function of athletic fabric permanently, and it builds a layer that makes every subsequent wash less effective than the one before. It is the single most counterproductive product in the average American laundry room. Scent beads. These are a masking product and nothing more. They add fragrance carried in a wax or polymer that clings to fabric, which means you now have perfume and residue sitting on top of oil, and heat and moisture bring the underlying smell straight back through it. They also add to the buildup problem. More detergent. The intuition is that the smell survived because there was not enough cleaning agent. The reality is that a wash cycle can only rinse away so much, and past a certain dose you are adding material that stays behind. More detergent in cold water does not solve a temperature problem. It adds a residue problem to it. Chlorine bleach. It does destroy odor compounds, and it also does nothing at all to remove an oil embedded in a fiber, so the smell comes back on the first wear. It weakens elastane, which is in nearly all modern athletic and stretch clothing, and repeated use will visibly yellow some synthetics rather than whiten them. It is the wrong tool for an oil problem. Freezing the clothes. This circulates constantly for gym wear. Freezing slows bacteria down and kills relatively few of them, and it removes no oil whatsoever, so the population recovers as soon as the garment is warm and damp. The shirt smells better on the way out of the freezer because it is cold and dry. That is all that happened. Odor eliminating sprays. These work by trapping odor molecules inside a ring-shaped sugar structure so they cannot reach your nose. The trapping is real, and it is also reversible. Add moisture, which is exactly what sweat does, and the molecules are released again. That is why the smell returns the moment you warm up. And rewashing the same load immediately on a longer cycle, with everything else the same. If the water temperature and the chemistry are unchanged, a longer cycle is more agitation applied to a problem that agitation was never going to solve. Many people do this 3 times before giving up on a garment. So what should you buy? Detergent first. Look on the label for enzymes, and specifically for lipase, which is the enzyme that breaks down fats and oils. Protease handles protein soils and amylase handles starches, and most decent detergents have those. Lipase is the one that matters for this problem, and it is not in everything, especially not in many products marketed as free of dyes and perfumes. Read the ingredient panel rather than the front of the bottle. Buy sodium percarbonate as a plain bulk powder rather than a branded booster. It is the same chemical. For clothing, understand the trade you are making. Polyester is durable, cheap, and quick drying, and it holds body oil more stubbornly than any common fabric. Cotton absorbs more sweat but releases oil far more easily in a wash. Merino wool resists odor better than either and can be worn several times between washes, and it costs more. For anything worn against skin during exercise, merino or a cotton blend will save you this entire problem, and pure polyester will hand it back to you every summer. If you are buying a washing machine, know that a high-efficiency front loader uses a fraction of the water of an older top loader, which is excellent for the water bill and is also the reason residue and gasket biofilm are more common in them. If you have one, the monthly maintenance wash and the open door are not optional habits, they are part of owning the machine. If a model offers a deep fill or extra rinse option, that option is worth having. Now, the honest limits. Some fabrics cannot take this. Wool and silk will not tolerate 140-degree water or a full-strength oxygen bleach soak. Wool felts and shrinks irreversibly with heat and agitation. For those, use cool water, a wool-specific detergent, and rely on airing and sun rather than chemistry. It will not fix mildew that has already damaged the fabric. If black spotting has grown into cotton, the fungus has been digesting the fiber, and the weakness and the staining are permanent even after the smell has gone. It will not fully strip odor from garments with a waterproof or water-repellent coating, since the coating is doing exactly what it was designed to do in keeping the solution out. On clothing with years of accumulated buildup, one soak is often not enough. Expect 2 or 3, spaced across separate washes on the worst items. And clothing contaminated with gasoline, solvent, or fuel oil is a different situation entirely. It is a fire hazard, and it must never go into a dryer. Safety is brief, and 2 items are not negotiable. Never combine chlorine bleach with vinegar or with any acid, and never combine it with ammonia. Both combinations produce toxic gas. Keep the acid rinse and any bleach in separate loads entirely. Water at 140 degrees causes a scald burn on skin in a very short time. Wear rubber gloves, do the soak where a child cannot reach it, and do not walk away from a full tub in a house with small children. Wear eye protection while mixing the powder, and never store a percarbonate solution in a sealed bottle, because it gives off oxygen as it breaks down and pressure will build. So, the whole sequence. Soak the clothes for 1 hour in water measured at 130 to 140 degrees with 1 to 2 tablespoons of sodium percarbonate per gallon, fully submerged, then wash as normal. Add a cup of white vinegar to the rinse every 3rd or 4th load to strip mineral scale and old softener film. Get the laundry fully dry